This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benerofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And me, Peter Katz, formerly with NBC, ABC News, and stations from Boston to Los Angeles. White Plains Week, what's happening, who are the newsmakers, what's in store for the future. The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. White Plains and Westchester and the world. This is John Bailey. This is White Plains Week. And we are now in our 16th year of covering the news with, of course, Jim Benerofe, the journalist, the dean of the School of Journalism in White Plains, founder of SuburbanStreet.com, and, of course, the anchor for all seasons, Peter Katz, with us since 2007. And we are here, and so let's get right to the headlines, Jim. It was another headline week.
All right, and here are the top stories for the week of August 5th, 2016. Assessment test scores hailed as progress by Commissioner of Education. In White Plains, students' test scores in the key grades 5 and 8th show blacks and Latinos scoring 50% lower than white students, and only 60% of white students pass. National election campaign achieves new lows, appear to assure Clinton ascendancy. National Night Out promotes police ties with the community in White Plains. Public Service Commission approves credits for money-losing nuclear plants, and according to Con Edison, you, the consumer, will pay for it. County Executive selects engineer, designer, overseers for playland construction. County Chair of Board of Legislators forms Ethics Committee to examine employment after retirement by county officials.
Thank you, Jim. And let's go to the White Plains Week stories of the week. And we start off with our top slide, which is a picture of the National Night Out held in White Plains on Tuesday. And Peter Katz will have a special report. And the story of the week that took everybody surprised over the weekend, as it always seems to, is the assessment scores came out, which many parents are really very interested in. So could we have the assessment scores, please? The White Plains Schools 2016 results. The black and Latino students score 50% lower than whites in ELA and math in the 5th and the 8th grades, and 1/3 of the whites do not pass the 5th and 8th grade assessments. Why do I pick those two grades, folks? Because the 5th grade is the culmination of the 5 years of elementary school, and look what happened in the 5th grade. In the 5th grade, the ELA results, 449 took it, 161 passed, that's 33%. Of the 99 whites, 60% passed, 55 blacks taking, 14, 25% passed. The 266 Hispanics taking the test, 52 passed. That's at 5th grade. It says the figures speak for themselves, despite what Commissioner Mary Ellen Aaliyah says about scores being up from 31 to 38% through all the grades. In 5th grade math, 440 took it, 115 passed, that's 44%. 103 white students took it, 70 passed, 68%. Good there. This is perhaps a one bright spot. And of the 267 Latinos, 96 passed, that's 36%. And 51 blacks taking it, Only 13 passed, 25%. Now let's go to the 8th grade. The 8th grade, this does not look good because in the 8th grade is now starting high school this September as freshmen, 9th grade. 322 took ELA, 35% passed, 113. That's after 8 years in the White Plains school system. 73 whites took it, 62% passed. That's 45%. That's good, reasonably, comparatively. I don't think it's that good. The 179 Latinos took it, 26% passed. That's 47 of 179. 50 blacks took it, 20% passed. And 8th grade math, even worse results. 164 took the test, 8 passed. Think about that. 21 white students took it, 4 passed. 24 blacks took the test, 1 passed. Of 119 Latinos took it, 3 passed.
You know, John,
What does that say?
John, if I were running a manufacturing business
Yeah.
and I manufactured 200 widgets and only 8 of them worked, I'd fire an awful lot of people on my staff.
I mean, there are a lot of people that have a lot of explaining to do, and you can't just put out press releases saying we improved it 7 percentage points, so we're headed in the right direction. You're not. That's a huge gap, particularly among the black and Latino population.
You know, it adds fuel to the argument that it's time to close down the whole school system and take the $30,000 a student we're spending and use that to buy tuition at a private school where the kids can learn something.
Harsh words, but I mean.
Am I exaggerating too much here? Am I doing a Donald Trump?
No.
No, because I don't think he'd do the statistics.
Oh, okay.
You know?
I don't think he'd think of that.
But, you know, Jim, what do you think?
Well, it's not good. It's really not good. I do think that there really needs to be some drastic changes. The black and Latino communities have to be brought up, and I don't know exactly how to go about it, but it's got to be better than what we're doing now.
There has to be a task force, and you know what I would recommend? I think that you have to really take a harsh look at what we're doing in the elementary levels, because those 5th grade assessment tests are ghastly.
You know, it sounds as if White Plains is really horrible here, but the fact of the matter is that this is statewide. It's even nationwide,
Yes.
and so White Plains really is probably pretty average. If you took these bad-looking scores and put them, you know, on a national grid, we'd probably be somewhere in the middle, maybe even the upper middle of it, maybe even better than that.
Well,
It's as a taxpayer, I find the whole thing rather discouraging because I'm not seeing the kind of achievement that I think I'm paying for.
I even think that the records on the white students are not good either.
No, that's the key point.
You know, it's really the whole thing. I mean, the black and Latino community stands out, but white students didn't do that good, really.
Okay, so now let me really
Get us into trouble.
put myself in a Trump frame of mind and say, how can we make White Plains schools great again? Some will say they are great already.
Well, they've been saying that for years.
Let's look at these numbers.
But
let's get, maybe we should get little red baseball caps with a legend. You know, let's make White Plains schools great again. How can you get people?
A slogan that will live forever, right?
All right, forget that one. Let me try another approach. What can be done to get the community interested in this?
They should be. They should be.
I mean, when you were going through those numbers, all I could see is people out there reaching for the remote control to put on another channel, because we can't, for the life of us, get people to even come out and vote in the school elections.
Right, or come down and say, what the heck is going on? These assessments were supposed to be easier so that these darlings could pass them.
How do you get people to take an interest in this? How do you get maybe the community needs to come together, have a big town meeting, and hash this over? What can be done here to change this.
But the tragedy is we supposedly have been doing something, and a lot, to change it the last 5 to 6 years. But it's obviously not getting through.
And there's a natural segue there to what we see people talking about bringing change at the national level, right? With the presidential campaign becoming more bizarre than ever.
Right.
It seemed as if candidate Trump was
yes,
almost,
we have a slide to set the stage.
Almost living in a world of his own this week.
We have a slide to set the stage.
What is that now? Oh, my goodness.
Well, Donald Trump lost his head last week, and it has cost him big time.
Well, the polling numbers certainly seem to indicate that. There are some who characterize him as living in a fantasy world of sorts, because this week, a couple of times, he tried to convince everyone that he saw a videotape created by the Iranian government, which just does not exist. Mm-hmm. And finally this morning, he admitted in a tweet that he made a mistake, but spent a couple of days defending himself as having seen a videotape of $400 million in cash being unloaded from an airplane in Iran.
But I mean, President Obama, I did not see it, but I understand he had his real dander up against the media yesterday for reporting this whole thing as a conspiracy.
Well, no, not against the media, against Trump. Obama held a news conference yesterday at the Pentagon. He had been over there for briefings on the progress being made against ISIS. And of course, Trump came up, and the president was asked whether he would care to state again whether he believes that Trump should be given the nuclear codes, or whether Trump is really qualified to be president. Obama did not want to repeat what he had said previously, which was that he believes that Trump is not qualified to be president. And he's very nervous about Trump having access to the nuclear codes that would allow him on the spur of the moment to put the world into a nuclear war.
Yeah. Well, he has lost a lot in the polls as a result of his feud.
Latest polls, even a Fox News poll, shows Clinton ahead by 10 points nationwide. Other polls show it as being 9 points nationwide. And adding up what really counts, which is the Electoral College results, it appears that Hillary Clinton has about a 200 vote lead in the Electoral College, and that, of course, is where the presidential succession will be decided.
Well, it's interesting. The media should probably start pushing the Libertarian Party. Well, I mean, the two guys that are running in the Libertarian Party have pretty good backgrounds. One was governor of
they do, and actually the polls show them with about 12% at this point on the Libertarian ticket. The wild card is the Green Party ticket, where Jill Stein now shows up with about 6% nationwide. And the issue there is that, if you recall, it was Ralph Nader running as a third-party candidate.
Gave us George W.
Bush when Gore lost in Florida, and thereby lost in the Electoral College, because about 90,000 people voted for Ralph Nader. So the concern in some political circles is that if Jill Stein, who's running on the Green Party ticket, continues to do well, she might draw enough to possibly tip the scale in some states.
Well, I had no idea she was actually polling.
Well, I think the Libertarian candidates have a much better chance. First of all, both were governors for more than one term, in one in New Mexico and the other in Massachusetts.
They may be better candidates, but they still stand no chance of winning. That was shown in the Ross Perot election, where he actually got 18% of the vote, which gave us Bill Clinton as president, and Clinton won that by 43% of the vote, a minority president. There's some feeling that the Libertarians are drawing equally from the Republicans and the Democrats.
Well, to wrap up my comments on Mr. Trump, what he did last week reminded me of the damage that he has done, and Percy Shelley, the poet, wrote a great poem which tells you where Donald Trump is today. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive stamped on these lifeless statues. The hand that mocked them and the heart that felt them. And on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, in despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away."
I'm speechless.
Right. It's a great poem by Percy Shelley, foreshadowing some 250 years ago, the Trump situation.
Well, people were not speechless here in White Plains.
No, we had a great night Tuesday night.
This past
Right.
Tuesday night, there were thousands of communities nationwide, actually, who participated in the 33rd Annual National Night Out. And across the country, neighborhood residents are asked to turn on their outside lights and go out on the front porches or go to a community event such as the one here in White Plains.
The area in front of the Public Safety Building at 77 Lexington Avenue in White Plains was blocked off for the night out event. Although the atmosphere is festive and an opportunity for residents and members of police, fire, ambulance services, and others to get to better know one another, this year's night out took place against a more serious background. The shootings of police in Baton Rouge and Dallas, allegations of police brutality in several other cities, and even divisions in American society being exploited in the presidential campaign. I asked White Plains Mayor Tom Roach whether events such as this really have a positive effect on interaction between residents and police, or are just window dressing.
We're a city that's very engaged with the community. You can see our community partners are all out here at tables, Pace Women's Justice Center, etc. They're people we work with for a long time. We were in the vanguard on domestic violence issues here, and we try and be in the vanguard on everything. So this is an opportunity to get everybody out together. Let everybody see each other, talk, but it's something we do all year, just not in this type of kind of party environment. So it's a great event.
And how does the White Plains Police Department's relationship with the community stack up with what you've seen nationwide?
I think it's great, but it's something that we're always working on. It starts really at the top, so it starts with the members of the council and the mayor being engaged in the community. And we think we have a very engaged council, and I try and be out to everything I can be at. And then it comes down to the leadership of the police department. But it's a very engaged department in the community and in the city. And we have wonderful organizations in the community, the houses of worship, the nonprofits, the neighborhood associations, and we all work together to try and make this a better place to live.
A lot of children were there, and the children had a chance to become firefighters for a few minutes at least, spraying a high-pressure hose with the help of members of White Plains Engine 66. Youngsters who wanted to pretend to be a motorcycle cop had that chance, and they could even go for a pretend ride in an ambulance. State Assemblyman David Buchwald expressed the opinion that the effects of the interaction which takes place during the night out event can be long-lasting.
One of the great things about White Plains is that we have events like National Night Out year in and year out to help bring community and our public safety officials together.
In addition to live music and the public safety exhibits, there were snacks, games and contests, a Dunk the Detective booth, and community service organizations on hand to meet people and spread the word about what they do.
And so this seems to be a pretty much an annual event now here in White Plains, and we can look forward to it again next year.
I think it's been going about 5 years, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Right. And White Plains Police have a very good relationship with the citizens.
Right. One thing that I did notice was that Commissioner Chong was not there. and Ann Fitzsimmons, the chief, and Jim Bradley, the deputy commissioner, were there leading the police presence.
Well, it's always a great event, and it was nice, peaceful, and involved. Now, elections are upon us, and George Latimer declared his candidacy for re-election to Senate District 37th, and he is opposed by Julie Killian on the right, who started things off with a press conference last week, urging people to advise the governor not to penalize districts that had large opt-out rates, and she's also having a press...
You mean opt-out on the school tests, where parents will not allow their children to take the tests.
Districts that opted out in large numbers were going to be targeted by the governor.
And it seems as if the Republicans are targeting Latimer. In some past years, he's run without opposition.
Yeah, well, Ms. Killian is a council person in Rye, so she has a pretty good base there, but we'll see. It's going to be a tough year for a Republican running, I think.
Jim, have you heard any rumors around town about what the Republicans here in White Plains will be doing, either now or in the future? Do they have any candidates for anything that you know about?
Not that I know of.
The Republican City Committee has been pretty invisible.
Dormant.
Yeah.
We're waiting for them to rise from the mass grave, you know. At any rate, the public, we also good counsel came up. It was on Monday at the Common Council meeting, Jim. That is their plan, and it's being referred out. And did the mayor say anything about this?
No, other than I heard him telling people that there would be plenty of opportunities to talk about it. There were, the council chamber was full, and I believe it was full because I believe that people were there to talk about this.
But there was no scheduled public hearing.
No, but we should keep our eye out for that. And
we would expect that there will be public hearings in
they said there would be a lot of public hearings and there'd be a lot of opportunities for the people to speak, and they should not be concerned.
And it was also, I was told that a lot of taxi drivers from White Plains were there asking the council to enforce the rules against Uber in White Plains, to enforce them. White Plains forbids the cab service Uber from making pickups in White Plains, but the regular taxi drivers are unhappy about enforcement of it.
So they're concerned that they may be operating on it. It appears that they're going ahead and putting the meters in White Plains taxis.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of them. We have to take a test ride.
This is something that the city pushed through to be in effect. I believe July was the start date on it.
Yeah, the police told me that it is being enforced now, that the taxi meters are in force and in the cabs. And
now, am I correct? Are all the cabs in the future going to be painted white?
Supposedly, that was the legislation.
Yeah.
I think, what is it, Mako is backed up, I guess.
I see I still see some yellow cabs down at the station, but I see a lot of white cabs around White Plains.
Well, some of them have been white all the time. I mean, I think Splendid has been white all the time, and maybe Arrow.
But the thing, I mean, yellow is a tradition. A taxi cab is yellow. Mindset is you see a yellow car, instantly you think taxi cab. Why would you want to change it to white? I mean, they have some police cars that are white. In fact, they're
the ghost car.
It's white on white.
In New York City, they have green cabs now also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's style. That's what it is. Now,
maybe white is the clean color. You know, you think white, you think cleanliness.
Well, maybe they're going for White Plains. I don't know.
Oh, that's good. I didn't think of that one.
Yeah, well, that's why I thought they were doing it.
A marketing coup by City Hall. Now, power is in the news. By now, all of you are getting the new electric bills with the green rate for White Plains, those who opted for it, those who opted out. But you're going to have increased again because this week the Public Service Commission approved credits for money-losing nuclear plants, and according to Con Edison's Public Relations Department, you, the consumer, will pay for it. And why? Because the cost of a subsidy passed on to users, Con Edison figured, but you have more up-to-date figures than $2 a month, Peter. You found that Forbes reports?
No, actually, it'll be about 1.7 cents per kilowatt hour
right.
added to your bill. And this is to subsidize nuclear power plants in upstate New York. They had been denied in court a couple of years ago, their efforts to get certain tax credits and subsidies. So now they say that they need all this money to keep the plants operating and to maintain the employment. Governor Cuomo treats the nuclear business as being part of green energy. So when they talk about green generation, environmentally friendly generation here in White Plains, Cuomo, and in Westchester and in New York State, Cuomo is talking about nuclear being in that mix, and so they want to keep the nuclear power plants operating. It'll be about $1 billion over the next 2 years that ratepayers will subsidize. In addition, there'll be another $1 billion that will come from some federal credits for green energy, some state credits, etc.
And if we can go back to that slide.
Just one more thing. None of this will be used to support Indian Point.
Right.
This is only upstate nuclear power plants.
Well, the New York State Independent Systems Operator spoke with me yesterday at the press office and pointed me to a book they put out on 2016 energy needs, and it seems like nuclear plants have been losing, not making as much money. Nuclear fuel costs have increased 25% the last 2 years. Capital expenditures by 109%, and operating costs by 13%.
Do we know how many nuclear plants we have in New York?
There are three or four of them upstate that are immediately affected by this.
But this is why this subsidy is asked for, and they are encouraging it's to encourage utilities to buy power from those nuclear plants.
And just very quickly, they came to agreement on the people who are going to supervise the redoing of playland over at the county this week, and Astorino made the announcement. It's apparently a very well-experienced group of engineers and other experts who will be involved in seeing to it that playland is brought back to its former glory.
Well, we haven't checked them against the Astorino contributors list yet, though. Never going to tell. But at any rate, I will see you on Tuesday on WVOX. And until that time, John Bailey, Jim Benerofe, Peter Katz for White Plains Week. Good night.
This has been White Plains Week. News and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.